This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Rishis Namadasra of Leifeld, Shiva Shlita, Chasher Rabbanim, Mami, and all of you. We'll start off today's very sad day with a capital of Tillim from our oldest grandchild, Chana Chaim Feldman.
Try to speak into the microphone.
Mizmor l'Saida, Ariel Adonai Kol Haaretz.
Try it again louder. Try it again.
Mizmor l'Saida, Ariel Adonai Kol Haaretz.
Try it again.
That's it. They're giving him a...
Close to the microphone. Close to the microphone.
Mizmor l'Saida, Ariel Adonai Kol Haaretz.
Keep on going.
Okay, keep going.
Ivdu es Adonai v'simcha b'yu lefana bernana.
Keep going because they're not going to follow. Keep going.
Do ki
Keep going.
ki Adonai hu Elohim hu asanu v'lai anachnu amai v'tzai marisai b'yu sharav b'saida chaseresav b'sela haidu lai baruch hu shemai ki tayu Adonai l'olam chastai v'yadar v'adar amunasai.
Fantastic. You can go sit by mommy now. Excellent.
Libby was a tremendous Micah Rabbanan. Last 2 weeks ago, the Rosh Hashiva came to the house, and Libby sat up and said Rosh Hashiva and said thank you. She was barely speaking, but the Rosh Hashiva was Masada Kedushin by our wedding. He wrote the ksuva that I tried so hard to live up to. The Oikir Eflach Eizain Vafanis Yasichi Lichi. Nobody knows when you pledge that what it means to feed and to clothe. The last few months, Shiva was always there if we had a question, if we needed to talk to him. It's a tremendous covet from him, Libby, that our Rosh Hashiva, Samuel Adespeda, Rav Feinstein.
It may take a few minutes because it's rare that you see a little girl, you lose a little girl, grow up, became a Rebbitzen to a Talmud of mine, who different types of Rabbanis in the world. Ultimately, at the same time, became my daughter's sister-in-law, and in a way became the Gadlus. I'll explain what I mean. She comes from a family on the east side, the Gelbtuchs, which were well known. They had a business, Gelb sales. They were Kapitchense Hasidim. They were known for tzedakah, for chesed, but also was a pleasant place to go buy things, to do business with, because they were honest, They're straight. And these were the lessons that she was brought up with. She got married. She wanted to be a Rebbitzen. I don't know if she understood what all that meant. One thing it did mean. One thing we have to give godless to all the girls. Because to say that they the husband, the man, he went to yeshiva. He learned the Chshivas HaTorah. He learns what Torah is. He wants to give it over. What inspires the woman? And that keach, that the Yisham is given to women, that they're able to appreciate what their husbands appreciate without truly being involved in it. That's a tremendous greatness that they have, that women have. She married someone that probably Zikr Rabbonis is in the world, not in the Agudah. His CDs, his other tapes, things of that sort. That means she had to help him to, first of all, that's a strange way to make a panosa. There are times there's ups and downs probably. We find Taki by the women in Klal Yisrael, the ones in Mitzrayim, they did a great thing. What did they do? There's a Maisa, the woman used to have the Maras HaTzevos. The Kiyor comes to the Maras HaTzevos. Now it's the bearers that the women that used to hang around the Mishkan donated to the Mishkan. The Kiyor, which without the Kiyor you can't do Avodah. You can't come into, Kohanim can't do any Avodah without the Kiyor. That's like the whole preparation for holiness. Why did they deserve it? So Rashi brings a very strange Rashi. Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu did not want to use that money because it was used for women to preen themselves, to prepare themselves, and therefore it was considered not tzniistic enough. And the Rebbeinu Shalom told them, I bedafke want those. And then Rashi says a very strange thing. The women would come, don't forget we know that the women and the men both did Avodas Perech. And the women, after they finished the Avodas Perech, would go, and Ba'im Shem obviously made nisim in it to bring water, and there were little fishes in the water. They would catch those fishes, they would cook them, and they would bring like supper to the husbands. And when they finished eating, they would say to their husbands, look at us, look at me, and look at you. And look at the mirror. He says, I look good, and you look like you're not really downtrodden, broken, whatever it is there. That time, you would think that would break a person's spirit. No, what she was saying is, if I can do it, I went through the same Avodas Perech. I can do it, you can do it. And that's the biggest chizuk that can come. And they gave a chizuk. And that's what I'm saying. Most successes come from that, from the wives putting in that chizuk to be able to continue to do the work. I was going to say over, I know Rabbi Yisrael Weiss, my brother-in-law, is also going to be maspid. And I asked him, he told me a vach today. I think it touches up Miriam Libby completely. His vach was, he asked the question, he says, why was it Menashe's fault that Yeshua is born from Ephraim? The godless that it says that Yeshua, the bracha, that gone to Ephraim first is only because Yeshua comes from him. So because you have a kid, what's it got to do between me and you? Me and you, I can be bigger than you. So he said, very good thing, he said, yeah, Yaakov Avinu was there for both grandchildren. The one that chose to learn from him was Ephraim. Menashe didn't choose that. And in the future, what happened with Yeshua? Yeshua, of all the Talmidim, Yeshua became great. So the Gemara says, why was Yeshua picked? There was people, I don't know, bigger than him, but at least equal to him. So why was he the one that was picked? Because they said, because He was the one that set up the Beis Medrash. He was the one that set up the tables, the chairs, to make sure the Shia can go on right away. And the Dor became very saddened when they realized that that's what did it, such a small thing. That's what upset them. And the Mesa, the same thing. It doesn't take much godless to do these things. But someone has to do it. And that's what she did here. She went around, first of all, she made whatever she could. She made a Tillim club, whatever it is there. And people came. They said it. She went around with Vakachayla in the hospitals, in the old age homes. And when she even went to for her own chemo, she would take with her packages to go over to all the people who were taking chemo and tell them, this may help you, this will help you, whatever it is. The fact that there's a kind word at such a time, that's a big thing. Every one of us could do that, but no one does. That's the godless. That's godless. That's not just for him, because everyone has that potential in him to do that. And I think that's probably the biggest test we could say that Hashem should all learn from her. And to copy this, as we did, then Zichra Baruch should be, she's Zeichev, right away with all the tzar she had, then to Gan Eden without a problem.
When Libby was diagnosed, so of course I spoke to Echo and to Shuki Berman, and we picked Dr. O'Reilly, who was from the top doctors in the world at pancreatic cancer. And of course in Sloan they said 8 months maximum. So I started talking about Kvura as a schooler. Libby wanted to be buried next to me, as I wanted to be buried next to her. So that ruled out where my father and my shver was, because they don't allow it. And then I felt Staten Island was for us our home. It would be hard to go to Israel, hard on the family, although we'll bury her with it tonight. So I went to Rabbi Leifeld, and from the moment I went to Rabbi Leifeld, he took out the map and he said, "The cemetery is up for you. You make a pick." I right away saw that the kever next to Jill Bodner was empty. I thought that that's a kindred spirit. There was a place for me too. When it came to anything, Rabbi Leifeld came to the hospital and he said, "Anything that you need, anything." I called him up last night and I said, "Would it be all right to use New Young Israel because there's no room in my shul?" He said, "Anything that you need." I said to him that it really was never the minig to bring in an Aron into the Young Israel. But she was. Tzaddik Omer. Then he handed me over his pulpit. And he said, "I'll talk." But he is the Maradasa of the shul. I'd like to call up the Maradasa to say Mila de Hespeda.
The role of a Rav, of a rabbi, if I asked anyone to define it, I think most people could have an idea. The rabbi comes to davening as often as possible in the shul. He gives shiurim, we answer questions. We're involved in all of the life cycle events. We try to help Shalom Bayis in many homes. We raise some tzedakos for various families. If I were to ask anybody in this room, what is the role or what is the job of a Rebbitzen, I wonder what people would say. Of course, if the rabbi is busy and he's out of the house, the role or the job or the burden's the wrong word, but the burden of raising the children and shopping and cleaning and feeding and doing everything involved in the house, of course the Rebbitzen does it because the husband, the rabbi's not home. I would like to say that I think that Rebbitzen Miriam Libby Weiss was a Rebbitzen different than many others, and I think she went her own way and she paved her own path. My wife is a Rebbitzen, my mother's a Rebbitzen, my bubbies were Rebbitzens, but I never saw anyone be a Rebbitzen exactly like Rebbitzen Miriam Libby. I don't just mean because she had Tehillim in her house and all the ladies would come. And when she led the Tehillim, when people would come, she didn't just lead the Tehillim. People were sick, the way she felt, the way she cared, not sympathy but empathy for all the people. Anyone that lives in the neighborhood, who can forget Rebbitzen Miriam Libby with her shopping cart? The shopping cart was because it was filled with food. She got food from food banks. She got food from their various restaurants. And she would go to people's homes. She would walk with her shopping cart to deliver food to many families. I got into a few arguments with her because I would like to have delivered the food. She wouldn't tell me where the food's going. If I knew where it was going, I would arrange for a man to take the truck, take the van, and deliver food. She wouldn't tell me where the food was going. So I would see her in her shopping cart delivering food. Very often I drive through the neighborhood, I would see her with the shopping cart, I'd ask her, does she want to come in? Can I help her? And she went, everyone saw her with the shopping cart. In this building, there were unfortunately many Levayas, as well as many of the chapels in New York. I can't tell you how many times when I needed someone to rice Kriya for the women, the one that did it jumped out of her seat and insisted that she did it was Rebbitzen Miriam Libby. Rabbi Weiss is very busy. He's giving shiurim all around the tri-state. This is a very large community. I can't tell you how many times Rebbitzen Miriam Libby would call me up and say, I know you're going to the wedding. I need a ride. Sometimes she called, and sometimes she simply walked to the shul or my house and parked herself because she knew that I was going and she knew that I would take her. I just don't mean weddings. She came with me to Levayas. Many Levayas are in the southern state, exit 35, which is very far. I sat in the front, she always sat in the back, she never sat in the front. And we would talk, and very often at the end of a Levaya, I look around and the only one left in the basic Varis besides me was her. And she needed a ride home. At that point, she didn't even ask, she used to give me a look. She turned her head a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? She would turn her head and she would sometimes point, which I knew meant that I am driving her home. There was once a Levaya, took a long time in the shul, and driving to southern state, New Montefiore, Wellwood took a long time, the Levaya took a long time. We must have been out for 6-7 hours. So on the way home, she asked me if I have anything to eat. I always carry in my car granola bars because I never know where I'm going to be, and sometimes I get hungry, so I offered her a granola bar. I gave her 2 choices. I had 2 different flavors and a bottle of water. And she looked at me and she said, did I wash properly in the basic Varos? I said, what do you mean? She says, I know that we were in a rush. It was freezing. The water was basically frozen. I had a few drops on my fingers. I don't know if I washed properly, and therefore can I make a bracha or not? So I paskined. None of their Rabbanim were there, so I paskined. I see no problem. I don't see a problem. She looked at me and she said, I know you're the rabbi of the community, but you're not my rabbi. I don't think her husband's her rabbi either. I think she did it her way. And she held the granola bar and the water. I said, maybe you can just open the water and open the window and pour it out the window. But we sat in the car together. She refused to make a bracha because she didn't think she washed properly. The last wedding of the Weiss family, and Rabbi Weiss will attest, nobody knew exactly if she'd make it to the last wedding, and Baruch Hashem she did. Everyone in the room remembers she came with the white gloves, and she walked down the aisle, and the simcha she had, marrying off her children. And I'll be honest, I left the men's section because I wanted to see Rebbitzen Weiss dance. I wanted to see if she had the kayach to dance. And she danced with every single one of you in the room. I don't know how she did it, but she danced, and I watched the circles around her, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. I know very often if chas v'shalom there's a korban, someone is killed in Eretz Yisrael, so people go and they go to give chizuk to the families. And anyone that comes back when they visit a family in Eretz Yisrael that lost somebody by a terror accident, the people come back and they'll tell you they went to give chizuk to the family, but they didn't give chizuk, they received chizuk. Because all the families in Israel would say we would do it again to give to give our son, to give a father for Eretz Yisrael, al Kiddush Hashem. And people would come back amazed. Here they are sitting Shiva, and you go to give chizuk, and you walk out with more chizuk than you could ever give them. That last wedding, and everybody went to give Rebbitzen Weiss chizuk. I could honestly say, as much chizuk as we thought we were giving her, everybody walked out simply with the statement, there is nobody like Rebbitzen Weiss. The chizuk that every wife and every woman got watching her dance, and the way she danced, and the look on her face when another woman would come in and she'd give her smile and her charm, and she danced with them, as much chizuk as we gave her over the last few years, I think the whole neighborhood was nischazek simply because of that one woman. I know she was the Rebbitzen of the Aguda with Rabbi Weiss, but in many ways, I think she was the Rebbitzen of our entire community, our entire Kehillah. When I said to Rabbi Weiss, of course you can use the shul because it's larger, I don't want to step on his toes, chas v'shalom, from his shul, but I said to Rabbi Weiss, in many ways she belongs in a large shul in the community, because in many ways Rebbitzen Weiss was the Rebbitzen that we all learned from of the entire Willowbrook community. The chizuk that we received from her and the way that her husband and her family took care of her, it is something we could all learn from, something we could all grow from. And if you want to know that there's something called an Eishes Chayil and an Eishes Chaver, the woman lying in front of all of us, to the epitome, the quintessential Eishes Chayil, Eishes Chaver, what she did to each and every family on the island is simply mind-boggling. You asked me the role of a Rebbitzen. I don't know when she got married exactly what she thought she was getting into, but she invented a role of a Rebbitzen that I don't think anybody else could replicate, and to that we owe her and her entire family, for the entire community, not just a Yasher Koach, and not just thank you for what you've done, but you have uplifted the entire community for all the days and all the years that you've been with us. I'm not going to say she's going to be missed because I think she is irreplaceable for what she's done, but I think all of us have learned from her and the family what it means to be a Rav and to be a Rebbitzen and to be a family and to somehow contribute and change and uplift an entire community.
There are a lot of speakers here this morning, which is appropriate because there's so much to learn from him, Libby. What better way to learn how to live? And Libby was so special that the most special people in the community have come out to honor her. Even though we have a lot of speakers, and even though he said he doesn't have to speak, but it would be a glaring omission. You know, the Torah was written, Eish Levana Aleish Shechayra, white and black. The white is the parchment. The white is that we learn out from the Torah things that are omitted. An omission of this sort would be a glaring error. It's a huge covet for us to have the Venerable Mashgiach of the Yeshiva of Staten Island, Rav Gershon Weiss. I'd like to call up Rav Weiss to say a few words.
The Gemara brings down, if you have a situation, you have to make a choice between going to a wedding, a chasana, or going to Avelus, to Mokam Avelus. Chasana is a tremendous mitzvah of bringing happiness to people. What's Avelus? Mokam Ovel. So Gemara brings down the pasuk, Achai Yiten El Liboy. A person goes for Avelus. The person's alive. He's going to review what life is about. We're having a Levaya for a remarkable woman, Miriam Libby, Bas Aaron. And we certainly have to learn to utilize the eulogy. The purpose of eulogy is to learn from her life, the points of her life, that we should follow these points. That's the main purpose of a eulogy, of hesped. We just finished 8 days of Chanukah. When Antiochus decided he wanted to change the Jewish life. He had a problem. Every golus we had was in Bavel, Spain, every place else. There would be normal that you'll slowly, when you live in a country, you're going to imitate the environment that's around you. Over here, the Golus was in Eretz Yisrael itself. The Golus in Eretz Yisrael, had to change the way of life, the way when Jews live, the way Yidden live up in Torah, that you had to change. And to carry that through, he made tremendous gzeres. And we know from Chanukah that the heroes who were able to fight Matisyahu Ubanov, they were raised under the circumstances of an antayichus. It's like living in Siberia, living in Russia, where you can't go to yeshivas, you cannot have chinuch. And who was mechanech these children to be that way? Like you have Miriam, Bas Nachtum, her children refused to submit to antayichus, and and they went to their death. And when antayichus said to them, "How come that Rebbitzen doesn't save you like he saved Hananiah, Hananiah, Azariah?" They said, Hananiah, Azariah, they were tzaddikim. We are not. There was that was their chinuch. The chinuch the mothers gave to the children. The children grew up with such a tremendous chinuch over here. We live in America. The question is, what is our life? What are we striving to? You saw what the Yidden during Chanukah, what their striving was for Olam Haba. That really came originally. The one who called this was Miriam, Moshe Rabbeinu's sister. When Paro made the gezerah to kill the Jewish boys to be born, her husband wanted to divorce, so they shouldn't have any children. So they were going to be killed. So Miriam spoke up, the little Miriam spoke up, your gezerah is worse than Paro. Paro is just taking them away from this world. By not marrying, not having children, they will not have Olam Haba. Our Miriam, over here, lived such a life. Her life was mamish living. Like on the Mishnah that Antayichus and the Greek country declared war against Pirkei Avos. Many people say Pirkei Avos, and some people learn Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, the 4th parak, tells us what he called Olam hazeh is a proizdor bifnei Olam haba. This world is a vestibule preparing you to able to go to Olam haba. The Mishnah says hasken atzmacha. Prepare yourself that you should be able to go to Olam haba. That's the Mishnah, what they call it. Antayichus, the Greek country, want to destroy that idea, to live for Olam haba. And what you call it, your soul striving should be for Olam haba, to have a spiritual life, a ruchnistic life. This is what they tried to destroy. And this was Chanukah. Chanukah was that we were victorious, that Klal Yisrael, after the Hashmonayu Ubanov destroyed the armies of the Greeks, we're saying over there, they made a takana for generations, for a couple thousand years, that we should remember what Chanukah is. This is an interesting thing. You'll hear many stories from people about Mrs. Weiss, Miriam, what do you call it? You'll wonder such stories that way. Someone told me Friday she would go collect money for sick people, for poor people. That's what even when she was sick, how she was dedicated. It reminded me of Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim there was a Jewish boy was arrested on false charges by the Russians that he's a spy for the Germans. That was they claimed. They had to put in his pocket plans of where the armies are situated and everything else. The boy was arrested, and he was, of course, you understand in Russia, if he finds guilty, he's going to be killed. So the Askanim, the Hatzalah group that you have over here, Hatzalah, got the Chafetz Chaim to come from Radin, from Poland, from Radin, to come to Russia to testify in his favor. So when it came to testimony, the judge asked that Chafetz Chaim should swear. That's the decorum of a court, that you swear take a swear on a Bible or swear on a Chumash, but he should swear. The Chafetz Chaim refused. He refused. He says, if you believe me, you'll believe me without swearing. And if you don't believe me, my swearing will not do any good. It's become a whole pandemonium in a Russian court to refuse to go to do what's being done in the court. So the lawyer was a non-Jewish person, and he started introducing who the Chafetz Chaim is. He wanted to expand it, to teach the judge, to tell the judge, who are you dealing with over here? So he said over a story that Chafetz Chaim came to Warsaw, and because printing this forum of Chafetz Chaim, and he had a lot of money on him, and a Ganev, a thief, came over and asked him, can you give me a change for a $100 bill? So Chafetz Chaim took out his whole bag of money, and the person grabbed the whole bag of money, all the money that Chafetz Chaim had for printing this forum, and he started running away. Chafetz Chaim ran after him, and he says, stop, take it, beheter. I'm giving it to you. Take it. Don't be a Ganev. Stop it with Ganev. This is what the Chafetz Chaim said to this person. So the judge, the Russian judge over there says, do you believe that story? You believe that story that Chafetz Chaim would run after somebody to take it? So the the lawyer was a smart man. He says, whether I believe the story or not, why don't they say the same thing about you and me? Or you and I, if you want to say correct English. What do you call it? No, but the fact is I've said, the stories that you hear, all the tremendous actions of Mrs. Miriam Weiss over here, what she did, you should understand. But all the stories over there, because this was her way of life. This is that she lived. A Jewish woman has 3 jobs. A Jewish woman has a job of being a wife. She has a wife to be a mother, and she has a wife to be to be a Jewish person. To be a Jewish person. Mrs. Miriam Weiss lived through all these 3 pies. People who know how she was dedicated to her husband. We had the Nehemiah in our yeshiva. You could see the refineness, the fine character, the fine refineness that you saw they learned from their mother too. What do you call it? That you learn, and what do you call it? And the way she was devoted to Yiddishkeit, she fulfilled all these things. This is living. Olam hazeh is a proizdor b'fnei olam haba. Olam hazeh is a preparation for olam haba, that a person has a goal in life. The way a person lives in his goal in life. This is a person that we came to hear a hesped, a eulogy. Today we should learn her way of life. That way for life to be devoted. She used to. People don't know that because Rabbi Weiss used to say a shir daf yomi 1 o'clock in the morning for people someplace far away, right? But 1 o'clock in the morning, she was there. She was there to make the Gemara says, how do women have olam haba? They help their husbands to learn Torah by waiting for them. By waiting for them, what do you could make it? What do you could don't have kepedes against them. This is just like to give a mushal that she lived up to every aspect of a Jewish woman, being a mother, being a wife, and being and being a tzaddikus at the same time, and collecting tzedakahs for this. This is a tremendous riboshim that she lived a life that olam hazeh is a proizdor b'fnei olam haba. That olam hazeh is proizdor, and the Mishnah says, prepare yourself that you should be able to go to the palace. Right? This should be a tremendous example for us, how we should live our life. That we should live a life with an understanding, with a purpose, to able to prepare ourselves, that we should perfect ourselves, become Oivdei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rebbitzen, she should be Takei Melitza Yeshara for Klal Yisrael, because Rebbitzen is going to listen to her Yesharis, because the way she treated other people, that she's a Melitza Yeshara, should be free from Makam Yisrael. Yi Zichra Baruch.
One of the very few things that I've been in disagreement with the Mardasra over the years, Rabbi Lefeld and I, Baruch Hashem, we see things very alike. But one of the things has always been that I felt that by Levaya we have to call on the Kavod Torah first and the children afterwards. However, we had scheduled 2 hours for this Levaya, and the Rabbanim are skilled, and they're not so nervous. The children, on the other hand, are missing their mother. So I'm going to ask the indulgence of the remaining Rabbanim. I'm going to call them up, especially the senior Rav of Staten Island, Rav Balik. I'm going to call up a few of the children first, not as reflecting any lack of Kavod Torah. Rabbi Mintz, Rabbi Pal, I know the children are nervous and they don't want to be pressed, so we all know Mommy lives on through you. All of you came through like unbelievable. Even when Libby was not talking, but if Nehemiah came over to the bed, "Hi, Ma, it's Nehemiah," she would open her eyes and so proud of Nehemiah, so proud of such a successful Rebbe in Darchei, and Libby would talk about it all the time. I'd like to call on Nehemiah to say Mila Despeda.
Mommy, you taught us the first thing we have to do always is say thank you. Now that's really very hard to do. So many people to thank. All my mother's dear friends. I want to just say thank you, of course, the Rosh Yeshiva, the Rebbeim, Dr. Hirschfeld. Dr. Hirschfeld, you know that we couldn't do without you. And of course, the calls and just being there for my mother and believing and my father. Of course, we have to first and foremost thank the Rebbeinu Shalom for giving us Mommy, that she was our Mommy, and Hashem loves us and He wants the best for us. And Dr. Hirschfeld, Yitzhak Kurtzer, for always being there day in and day out, for my mother, my father, always picking up the phone whenever we need it. The last couple of weeks, Dr. Moskowitz, coming in every single day after a long day, and so many people that were with my mother. Thank you to my siblings, my wife, Rivki, who Mommy loved you so much. And Chani Shlomo, Yaakov Chavi, Devar and David, for being so amazing, for just being there for Tati and Mommy 24/7. Wasn't easy. Rina and Ephraim, Chabad and Avi. Mommy, you would say, that's a thank you for you. But then you would say, you have to thank for yourself. I want to just thank my personal thank you to my in-laws. And my wonderful yeshiva, Darchi Torah, Rabbi Bender, Rabbi Morgenstern, and my Rebbeim for just being there for the last 2.5 years. Mommy, you taught us what it means to be selfless. Nothing belonged to you. Everything was here, take it. We would come in the house and we would compliment a nice picture. Mommy would just take it off the wall and say, here, it's yours. We would come in and we'd say, oh, that's detergent. Every single month there'd be detergent by our door. Mommy, you just cared about everybody else. You taught us that we just have to be Vienna. There was nothing that belonged to you. You would take the shirt off your back with such a smile. Whether it was a time, remember the story with my mother, visiting her mother when she was in the hospital, and she brought a sandwich with her. It was a 2-hour trip. And my Bubby Olav Shalom said that she liked the sandwich. My mother went back, 2-hour ride, and came back to bring another one. She taught us what it means to be selfless. Mommy, you taught us what it means to love everybody. Not just your type, every single person. Anybody that you see, you give a smile. You say hello. Whether it's the man at the toll booth, the lady at the toll booth, you say hello. Mommy, you had a strong love for everybody. Always to see the good in somebody. Mommy, you would tell us that every single person has something good. Every person. Mommy, when you would walk into the room, the place would light up. Everybody would smile. You know how to say the right thing to every single individual. You knew which would make this person happy, what would make that person happy. You would say a story, a good joke, never at the expense of somebody else. You would tell us just a nice hello can make somebody's day. It never hurts to make somebody happy. To meet you was to know you and love you. Mommy, it's very hard to just talk and say so many things. You did so much. Mommy, you loved everybody. Everybody was your best friend. Everybody here was Mommy's best friend. We don't know how you had the time for everything. It doesn't make sense. The thousands of people that you reached, the smiles that you put in people's faces, I used to go and tell Tati, it's amazing how many people are coming for Mommy, and people would say to me, Mommy would do this for them. You love everybody. But Mommy, most of all, we know that you loved us, the family. You took care of us. You always knew what to say to us. We all knew that you were our favorite. Every time I would go into class, before I would go to a major prabha or a model lesson, I would call Mommy. I'd say, Mommy, can you have me in mind? Can you daven for me? And she would say to me, Nechemia, I'm going to daven for you. And you're going to do amazing. And she would give me the chizuk. Every day I would talk to Mommy. She knew exactly what to say. She loved every single one of us. These past 2.5 years have been the hardest life for us. Mommy really suffering. In pain unimaginable. But whenever Mommy would tell us two things. She would tell us that this one important thing is that all of us siblings should love each other, take care of each other, do everything for each other. Mommy, we're going to do it. Whether my mother was not talking and not talking, whenever she would talk, this is what she would say. She cared. This is what she wanted. And she would say, take care of Tati. Take care of Tati, all that he did for Mommy. Tati for taking care of Mommy. Spoke to many doctors, and they said if not for Tati, Mommy wouldn't have been alive. Mommy, you love the grandchildren. Shabbos party. The gifts, presents. You knew how to make every grandchild happy. And even when you would go to my in-laws, you would make sure to bring presents from my brother-in-laws and sister-in-laws. Mommy, we ask you, Mechila, be my chalas.
$33 ago, Libby's water broke in the 3rd month. Dr. Perez told me that he has to take Miriam Libby to abort the fetus. She's going to get massive infection. And I told him that we're not aborting anything unless he shows me that the baby is dead. Those days they didn't take sonograms. So he said, okay, I'll do a sonogram. And then Libby and I are sitting white-faced. And he comes back pale and he says, Rabbi, I don't know what to tell you. The baby is alive. I'm admitting your wife to the hospital. And Libby turned to me and said, Moshe, if they admit me to the hospital, admit me to psychiatric. There's no way I'm staying in the hospital for 6 months. So I told Dr. Perez, what would you do? So I keep her in bed, take her temperature every 3 hours, and give her a blood test every day. So I said I could do that at home. And Rita Barrett, Allah Shalom, came and gave her a blood test every day. And Nechemi was a baby then, and she stayed in bed for 5 months. The Daf Yomi was given in the house. And Baruch Hashem, we have a healthy Chani. And then 6 years later, Chani developed an E. coli infection. And everything shut down by her. Libby and I stayed around the clock with her in the hospital with everybody's tefillas. And after 5.5 weeks, it went away, Baruch Hashem. We have a Chani. It says, Ke'ima kachbita, we learned that out from Leah and Dina. In so many ways, Chani has so many of her mother's attributes. As all of you children do. In our Shivish circles, women don't speak Barabim, al Sneas. So our dear son-in-law Shlomo will say words from himself and from Chani.
Mommy, we miss you already. While I'm in shock, I feel I must express my hakaras hatov to you for raising all of us in a way that shows us how to live our life thinking of others. A few months ago, I spoke to you while I was at work. And you told me, respect everyone, no matter who it is. Everyone deserves respect. You also told me, when someone puts their hand out for tzedakah, give them. Throughout these 2 years, you told us Hashem is good. We don't understand. We don't. But I have to tell you, Mommy, I don't look at you as a woman in her 50s, but rather as a woman who has lived over 100 years with the amount of lives you've touched, and lessons that were taught not by preaching, but by example. You took us children to do Bikur Cholim, and we would watch you cheer up those who were unwell, with always knowing what and how to say. You've taken us to Shiva houses, and we watched how to do Nicham Avelim. When we got married and someone passed away, quicker than the nowadays chat groups, you'd call us up, give us the telephone number of the family, and make sure we'd pay a Shiva call over the phone or in person. You tell us how important it is to thank our bosses for the jobs we have, even if they pay us well, because they give us the opportunity to work. We'd watch you run out to the garbage men with orange juice, And to people coming for tzedakah, you'd give them a drink, food, and money. Even to a meshulach who would say 6 people are here, you must have seen 5 malachim since you gave him enough money for 6 people. Your mitzvah wagons always full of mitzvahs and books for the Maimonides library. When someone would make a simcha, you'd put your feet in their shoes, offer to pick something up from Holy Park, or take the girls to get their hair done, or babysit for the little kids. You were the first one to hear about someone's sad news and always had something comforting to say, or at sometimes you just say there's nothing to say, but hearing it from you was a comfort in itself. Whether it was Leilenu, a childless woman, older single, new widow, or someone who Leilenu just lost a child, or someone who just got a difficult diagnosis, you were there for them. With or without chemo, your listening ear and heart were so big that we are at a loss. We are left with a void so big only Hashem can give us a nechama. The house we grew up in, full of chesed and mitzvahs, boxes of pamphlets, svarim, tehillim booklets, tzedakah envelopes, freebies to help people, give more tzedakah, are testaments of how you spent your days. Setting up for a Zichron Shlomo Refuah Fund, your special packages with everyone's new gifts that got re-gifted from the year before. Now, how we so badly wanted to win, and you'd ask everyone not to return them for just about a week. We'll miss that. We remember Baruch Hashem with our own children. When it comes to PTA, the first question is, how's the midas? We grew up knowing that this is important, good midas. If someone was concerned about asking for a favor from you, you'd say it's an easy mitzvah. What's the matter with you? If you would have to ask a favor of another person and we weren't sure, you tell us, don't make the decision for them. Ask them, it's a mitzvah. The Tehillim group downstairs, when we said Shema with you about a week and a half ago, the basement cried with us and flooded the Tehillim group. Someone called the room Gan Eden because he'd set it up with outdoor chairs, green grass, and flowers, and they would come over once a week to Rebbitzen Weiss's Gan Eden. It all got flooded, but with good relatives and friends, we put it back together again. With your inner community book and out of community book of Chaylim, Mommy, please daven for everyone to have a refuah shalema. Everyone will miss your safety tips, freebies, and reminders. The Tehillim group has been running since 1996, about 21 years. Being Misameach Chasam V'Kalo, fortunate is the couple who had a chat with you. You'd help a newly married husband and wife find more favor in each other's eyes. Wedding tables, you always included everyone by pulling over more seats and thanking the waiters for accommodating the new setup. You'd come handy to Levayas with safety pins and tissues. When we would hear sirens of an ambulance, you'd look sad and shake your head. You felt for everyone, even if you didn't know who it was. In the country, once in town, a woman, Marilyn, fell on the floor. You helped her up and waited till she got helped. An Indian needed help. You helped her. And then the baby cat in the alleyway in Staten Island, you let Hatzalah know it wasn't an emergency. The cat was saved and you helped them all out. You'd call yourself the nosy neighbor of Rupert Avenue. Being home during the day, you'd make sure nobody had any robberies and would take in people's delivery boxes till they got home. You told us, always be the first one to say hello. And with friends, you call them first and don't wait for them to call you. All your friends feel like the number one best friend. And you are, because Mommy loved each and every one of you. Mommy, many people are telling us, you have no idea what your mother did for me. We don't. But we do know that you were always doing mitzvahs. In Maimonides, you were on heavy medicine, and you said, want to do mitzvahs, more and more mitzvahs. I hope, Mommy, we can all do many mitzvahs that you wished you could have done. A mitzvah auction was put out, and just about 28,000 mitzvahs by little children were done. Over 400 people refrained from talking Lashon Hara. Hafrashas chalas, Tehillim links, and chain calls. But with all of this, you tell us, don't do it just for me. There are other chaylim there out there. Freeze pops by Varts, cologne for raising tzedakah money, jewelry for someone lonely, a puzzle for a homebound. You name it, mommy had it. You brought out the good in everyone and had unique compliments for each and every person. You got sad people to laugh, stingy people to give money, a dejected person to have confidence, a helpless person to have hope. With your anivas, your humility, you shied away from any honor. You had no need for it. You got by without it. You were just happy to help out. Don't call me Rebbitzen, just Miriam Libby is fine. When it came to do a mitzvah, it was always Nasav and Ishma. No concerns of how, where, who, how heavy. You did it by hook or by crook. With zrizas, every mitzvah right away. Your advice was invaluable. From now, I guess we'll just have to say, what would mommy say to do? Your advice always golden. On 13th Avenue, if you'd see Hask children, each child got $1 for a treat or tchotchke. You would always say, make shalom, make peace. Life's too short. You'd say, Mishlach manas, give to those you dislike first. This you didn't do by example, you liked everyone. You'd say, smile at someone, give a compliment. What does it cost you? It means so much to the next person. Mommy, I don't feel like I'm one of 6. I'm one of thousands who say she was like a mother to me. We are all weeping together. You know more than most how many tsaros there are. You listen to them all day. Please daven for your friends and those that are in need of Yeshuas. You were so close to Hashem, and now you are closer. Mommy, we love you, and yes, the mitzvah Hashem will stick together. You told us when we were younger, you can kill each other now, as long as when you get older, you'll kill for each other. We are there for each other and we hope we can make you proud. Ephraim and Rina Tzivia's chasana was a gift from Hashem. Being with you is a contagious simcha for all of us. Clapping when you walk down the aisle without a walker. Greeting and smiling with you and everyone. Thank you, Hashem and Tati, for helping Mommy surpass the doctor's predictions to live over 2 years ago. Thank you, Devorah, and thank you to the entire Staten Island community for helping Mommy be with us. May Hashem give us all a nechama.
And we learned Biker Chaylim Afilu Mea Pa'amim Bayayim. Visiting the sick, it's even 100 times. 100 times a day. It's a guzma, it's an exaggeration. I will tell you that Biker Chaylim Afilu Mea Pa'amim Bayayim is an understatement. That could have been even in 1 hour. When I look back at the 2.5 years, 2 years, it was because she was ill before she was diagnosed. One of the gutsiest moves that I did with the help of Hashem was to take Miriam Libby out of Sloan Kettering and take her away from Dr. O'Reilly and take her to a frum Yiddish doctor then operating only in the Bronx, Dr. Hirschfeld. I saw that in Sloan, Libby had to wait for 3 hours first to get into a chemo bed. I saw that their success was as if they could keep somebody alive till 8 months. That was a success. I saw that after the first consultation, the only way you get to speak to the big doctor is if you have Moridika Mazel. It says, Avinu Malkeinu Shlach Refuah Shalema. It doesn't say, it says Shlach because you need a good Shliach. Baruch Hashem, Hashem gave us a good Shliach, Dr. Azriel Hirschfeld, who, although he has hundreds of patients, and he doesn't have time, he sent me a message up here that he has to leave soon. It's amazing that he's here so long. A man who keeps his cell phone with him on Shabbos. Moments before Mim Libby's Patira, I did a Facebook picture asking him what to do. Facebook call. Every day I spoke to him, he gave me his cell phone. The amount of different treatments, Libby had 32 chemos, besides the 8 chemos when she was sick 15 years ago. Dr. Hirschfeld, the family's Kakar Satayv to you knows no bounds. You became a member of our family from oxaliplatin to cisplatin to Avastin to Gem to 5-fluorouracil to Leucovorin to the things that you didn't try, and then oxaliplatin and again and then the Lynparza and the PARP inhibitors and the things that you tried and prolonged her life. I'd like to ask Dr. Hirschfeld to say a few words.
B'shus the Rosh Hashiva, B'shus Rabbi Weiss, B'shus the Morda'asra, Rabbanim, dedicated friends and family. It was a schus to know the Rebbitzen. It was a schus to take care of the Rebbitzen. I know the Rebbitzen would have wanted me to start this by saying thank you to all the people involved. Firstly, the rabbi. It's impossible for me to describe what he has done. He was the technician, he was the assistant, the medical assistant, he was the nurse, he was the physician, he was the specialist, he was the administrator. And I can testify, without his input, the Rebbitzen would not have lived this long. He created a hospital in the home and treated her in a way that a hospital could never have treated her. Thank you to the family, the children, who were always there to do what was needed. I had their numbers, they had my numbers. I was moved by the dedication of all the friends. It's interesting, the Rebbitzen, she didn't have regular friends. She didn't have people who liked her. She had people who loved her. Everybody I've come in contact with and spoke about the Rebbitzen, they always said they loved her. And they would have done anything for her. This is quite unique. One of the first times I've met her, and actually every time I've met her, I was taken by the first words that came out of her mouth, which was always thank you. And following thank you, it was always a bracha. A bracha to me, for my family, for Klal Yisrael, for everybody around. Perhaps most of you in this room have known the Rebbitzen for longer than I have. But I have seen her and experienced her in a situation a very intense 2 years where most people are in survival mode. And I was taken by the Rebbitzen in that when she came for treatment, she was never thinking about herself. In fact, sometimes when I came to the room, she wasn't in the room. She was elsewhere. Where was she? She was either giving a bracha to another patient, giving chizuk to another patient, giving food to another patient, saying thank you to a nurse. She was all over the place. And that's where she was in her mind. She was never about herself, as Nehemiah said. And I experienced that. And these are complete strangers. That gave her chizuk and that gave her chiyus. There's a Maharsha in Baba Kama that breaks down mitzvahs into 3 categories. There's mitzvahs ben adam lachavero, there's mitzvahs ben adam lamakam, and mitzvahs ben adam lachavero. The Gra brings this, the Maral brings this. I wanted to say a chiddush, that it's possible that every mitzvah has all those 3 components. It's possible for every mitzvah to have a component of ben adam la'atzmo, ben adam la'makam, and ben adam la'chavero. In fact, the Beis HaLevi brings it in Parshas Yisro on a pasuk that describes Moshe Rabbeinu, Alisa la'morom, shavisa shevi lakachta matanos. It refers to Moshe Rabbeinu accepting the Torah. And it refers to it in 3 different descriptions. One is shavisa shevi, you capture it. The other one is lakachta, which is lashon mekach umemker, you buy it. And the other one is matana. And I want to say these 3 components could be by every mitzvah. What does it mean, shavisa shevi? I'm taking for myself. It's for me. I'm doing everything. And I'm doing it for myself. The next one is lakachta. It's lashon mekach umemker. I have to give up something. I have to give up money in order to get it. I have to be mevatel myself. And I think the third one is the highest level, and that's matana, where I'm not taking for myself, I'm giving. In fact, I think the Aruch Chaim says it on the pasuk of Vayisu mirafidim, vayachanu bamidvar, vayichan sham yisol neged ahar, these 3 components. Vayisu mirafidim sharafu yedem min HaTorah, and then they went back to limud HaTorah. Vayachanu bamidbar, they made themselves like a midbar. They got rid of the ani. And the last one is Vayichan sham yisol neged ahar, which is Ki'ish echad b'lev echad. This is ben adam lachavero. In fact, on Sheka Achein ve'hevel hayofi, Isha yiras Hashem hitisalo, the Gemara describes Isha yiras Hashem hitisalo. This refers to the door of Rabbi Yehuda bar Ilai. Sheshisha miskasim b'talas achas. It was a time of great poverty, and 6 people were able to be covered by 1 blanket. And I think Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says on that, that's not possible unless each one is thinking about the other person. A Rebbe of mine, a great Baal Musar, used to say that when a person goes up to Shemayim, Lachamei V'Esrim, every moment will be broken down, and they will make a cheshbon on every moment whether he'll get olam haba for that moment. And there's one thing that determines whether you'll get olam haba for that moment. He asked us if we know. We all guessed, and we got it wrong. He said the determinant, the one determining factor is whether you were mashpia at that moment, whether you were thinking about somebody else, or whether you were self-absorbed. And it has to be that way. Because the Schar Olam Haba is Dveikus, and the Rebbeinu Shalom is always Mashpia. He's not self-focused. I think this defines the Rebbitzen's life. She was only thinking about other people. She wasn't thinking about herself. Anything she would have given away, like Nehemiah says. Even if she didn't have anything, she used to give brachas, and it flowed out of her. I'm surprised her name was not Bracha. Again, it was a tremendous chus for me to see a person like that in action. She was somebody who nobody had a bad word to say about. The nurses, even the people in the chemo suite that are really thinking about themselves, they noticed her. I think she was a pure Tzelem Elokim. She didn't have anything about herself. It was all about other people. And I think this was a gift the Rebbeinu Shalom gave us, gave the world, to see somebody like this in action. And we should be zocheh to emulate the Rebbitzen. I know in my interactions I'll be thinking about giving brachas and just how can I make other people happy and help other people. And I think this is something we can all remember about the Rebbitzen and keep her alive through this. This is who she was. This was her mahus. Thank you again for everybody, whether it was Dr. Moskowitz, who came every day, Dr. Kurtzer, who was available, all the nurses, Elke, Zahava, Rachel. It couldn't have happened without all of you. And of course the family and the rabbi. Thank you.
I have a feeling that people will begin to start needing to leave. So although I was planning to speak last, but I think that I know Libby better than anybody. It's probably a good idea to hear what I have to say. I remember Rabbi Tendler's Levaya for his wife, Rebbitzen Shifra. Rabbi Tendler said, and it moved me so, I stand before you today half dead. That's the way I feel half dead. You can imagine the enormity of my loss. When I was asked to be Rav of the Agudah 34 years ago, I asked Mim Libby, is this something you're up to? So she said, sure, So I said to her, you know you're not going to have any privacy anymore the rest of your life. We're going to live in a fishbowl. I said, tell me now if there's any conditions you want to make. I wonder if anybody ever wondered why Rabbi Weiss at the Agudah doesn't pass Nidus. People call up. That was the one condition. She said, you know, I don't feel comfortable women coming with their clothing. So I said, okay, that'll be a condition. I won't pass Nidus. So the loss is not a personal one. It's a tremendous loss to the community. The Staten Island community will never be the same again. And as such, there's a very big danger when a very righteous woman passes away, especially young. And people, we know it's dangerous because we know what happened to Esav. That day when Esav freaked out and he did the 5 Averas, what caused Esav to freak out? He didn't do anything. Avraham Avinu passed away. He didn't see Esav go to Tar B'Sra. Because Esav said, if somebody like Avram could die, it was all chesed, and then then what's it all about? There's a danger of that. And I want to dispel that. The fact that Libby was 54 years old, Shlomo HaMelech was 52. Shmuel HaNavi was 52. Rabbah was 40. Rebbe Boone in Yerushalmi was 26. But Miriam Libby lived in those 54 years. What she accomplished, Boba Yomim, every day to the fullest. I have to tell you that I always said a word. There's a famous Balaturim, Vayechi is Begematria 34. Balaturim says that was the 17 years that Yaakov lived with Yosef until he was sold, and the 17 years that he was in Mitzrayim. Those were the 34 golden years of Yaakov. Vayechi. You don't think it struck me that we were married 34 years? Vayechi. I always had the kasha, but what about the 14 years in Shem Ve'eva, the yeshiva years? People look back and say, the yeshiva years, the golden years. And what about all those years that Yaakov was Ishtam Yeshev Vayholim, sitting and learning in the tent? Those years weren't Vayechi. The answer is those years he wasn't married. That's not real Chaim. Chaim is the years of marriage. All of you children know, and I had it thrown back in my face more than once when I told you have to come for Shabbos. And he would tell me, but Mommy, Mommy always said, your spouse comes first. And that's what she taught you. Keep at it. Keep at it. That's what she taught you, because that's what Mommy always put me first. Always put me first. As a matter of fact, it might sound like an unconventional request of Mechila. I already asked you Mechila a bunch of times privately. But the thing that I have to ask Mim Libby for Mechila Barabim is that she would have been much greater if she put herself first. She would have been a worldwide, global chesed phenomena if she wasn't the wife of Moshe Meir Weiss. She put herself on the back burner in order that I should be able to do what I do. Although that it's a story that many of you know, I told it over. We have the honor of having the executive director of the Aguda here, Reb Chaim David Zwiebel. I told him last night on the phone. About 28 years ago, 26 years ago, we got a phone call, Erev Yom Kippur. And Chani picked up the phone. She was then a little girl. And she said, Tati, there's a Rabbi Scherer on the phone.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.